Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently had to teach Sean Spicer about capitalism. That's interesting. So now this came from a tweet interaction, which Sean Spicer had attacked her for having an online merchandise store. Oh my God, a socialist that has a merch store. Oh, that's not socialism. Now, her store sells, again, merchandise, t-shirts, hats, branded with AOC, Green New Deal, better climate, equals better jobs. And my favorite, drink water and don't be racist. Actually, it's my second favorite. My first favorite is tax the rich. Now, according to Reuters, who wrote about this, Ocasio-Cortez's investment in her shop is aimed at both at fundraising and building a second-term lawmaker's profile nationally. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, my favorite shirt, tax the rich, because we should absolutely do that. It's a based shirt. I mean, no matter what, based. Especially given the timing of this. Instead of solving world hunger or just paying their taxes, Jeff Bezos just took off to low orbit. No, didn't even really go into space. It's more like kind of on the edge of space. You know? And then, of course, unfortunately, he had the audacity to come back. I mean, can you believe the nerve? Go to the edge of space and you come back. Should be a re-entry fee. Same. Now, her command described the enterprise as uplifting independent artists of color whose work tells the story of community and imagines a more equitable world for all. That's great. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And look, hey, it's been a prolific success. AOC raised about $20 million from 2019 to 2020. That's the most recent fundraising numbers that I could find. 80% of which came from small individual donors. The other near 20% was actually from large individual donors, according to opensecrets.org. Very important that you of course, check the sources and the money. And so basically, she knows how to raise money from small donors. Campaign merch is part of that, I'm assuming. And look, I bought campaign merch, not from her specifically, but I still have my Bernie mug, my Medicare for All mug. I love it. It's fantastic. All right, so anyway, now it appears that Spicy got a little salty about it. Interesting. In fact, here's what he said. When he linked the article, he said, using capitalism to push socialism. Does he not understand how words work? Does he not know how these things mean? All right, well, whatever. She responded by saying, not sure if you know this, Sean, but transactions aren't capitalism. Capitalism is a system that prioritizes profit at any and all human and environmental costs. So, yeah, there you go. Capitalism, socialism. So now, she also added, by the way, but for what it's worth, our shop is unionized, doesn't operate for profit, and funds projects like free tutoring, food programs, and local organizing. So that's good. Now, why is it, my question is, why is it whenever a conservative criticizes a Democrat or whatever, that they completely misconstrue and just say the, wrong version of, I can't say wrong version. They don't even know what socialism is. And so they criticize something that's not socialism. It's just something that they've made up. And so here's what socialism is, okay? Socialism is when workers own the means of production, when the workers are also the bosses and share the risk equally with each other, as well as the profit. That's what it is. Now, running a merch shop, by the way, isn't socialism, obviously, isn't capitalism either. Capitalism is when investors, or capitalists, own the means of production. They take the most risks. Theoretically, at least, they should take the most risk, but also receive the majority of the profits from the labor of the workers. And so that's why, and the reason I said theoretically, as I said, when it comes to risk, is that we have limited liability corporations now, or companies. You have corporations themselves that are legal fictions, and those actually take the risks as opposed to the capital owners. That's why corporations, they can go bankrupt, but the capital owners are able to get the golden parachute and then go on to start another company. And so let me give you an example. Vulture capital firms. Those can exist under capitalism. Those are capitalism. Vulture capitalists buy an existing firm, lend money, and then sell off the assets or load it up with debt. And so that company ends up often failing. This makes the firm struggle in the long term. And even if the firm does fail, the vulture capitalists end up making money off the sale of those assets, and as well as making as lending the money, the company money at some profitable interest rates, so high interest loans, basically. Now, the result of that is, again, the capitalist makes money. The firm, like Bain Capital, for example, Mitt Romney's firm, but the workers end up getting screwed over in the process. Kind of sucks for regular people. A good example here is back in 2005, when hedge fund manager Eddie Lampert merged Sears and Kmart. He then used revenue from the company in a stock buyback to reward shareholders, push up the share price, which is good for him, then increase the corporate debt of both Sears and Kmart, personally lending billions to the firm at high interest rates. They also sold off major assets rather than own stores. Sears and Kmart sold them to the private equity firms. Sears Holdings actually paid to a separate company called Seritage, and then they have to pay rent on property they used to own, which again is good for the people who are renting. Or I'm sorry, the people who are renters. So who are renting out that property. Now, they also, by the way, when it came to Sears and Kmart, private equity investors lend that money, increasing Sears corporate debt. But again, that does not get transferred onto the owners, the vulture capital firm. So, yeah. So there's that. The firm, Sears, by the way, was losing assets, such as land and property, but again, increasing cash liabilities, debt repayments, and rental payment. That allowed, of course, Sears and Kmart to crash. And I give that example here because Sean Spicer and Republicans tend to ignore those issues when it comes to capitalism. And this is unfettered capitalism, of course. Republicans push for less rules, less regulations. That's things that the AOC actually believes in, and most of the American people believe in. Rules, regulations to make sure that these companies don't go in and screw over all the workers by loading up a company full of debt and then selling off the assets piece by piece. So now, here's the other thing. Sean Spicer said, oh my God, she's pushing socialism. AOC's a socialist. AOC isn't a socialist. She's a social democrat. Policy-wise, that's what she is. Meaning, and this is what social democrat is, let's have some democracy when it comes to our economic system. Or better yet to say, let's do things in a way that benefit the most people economically, as opposed to what we're doing now, which is only benefiting a very small slice of the population at the top. Social democracies are capitalist in nature, but they have a very strong welfare state, which again, things like universal health care, single-payer health care, debt-free college, or very, very low-cost college that is subsidized heavily. Things like daycare that is subsidized by the government or paid for by the government. Things like that. That's what social democracies that exist inside of capitalism are able to do, or what they actually do. And they try to do it in a more sustainable kind of way. And I think it's important to do it in a sustainable way, because you actually can't have an economic system when your planet's on fire. But that's just me. That's just my opinion on there. It doesn't quite work. That said, Spicy does not know the definitions of any of these words. Most conservatives don't. They don't bother to learn, as socialism, communism, whatever, is basically a catch-all for anything that they don't actually like. And so my guess is Spicy isn't going to take the lesson in what is and is not socialism, because his understanding of things, and this is very important, his understanding of what that is solely dependent on a paycheck. So he gets paid to not understand these things, and so he never will. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.